feel like, Jenny, we got so much into the humility and the um, surrender that you found in your life, and that place of sacred smallness. I didn't feel like we got the 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 fullness of what your life has led to. That even who would even think to have what is sacred smallness?
Well, sacred smallness to me, and really our life, is about surrender and is about an offering. I think that it's so easy to define offering and worship as these very limited constructs when really they cannot be defined in words. And the only way that an offering can truly be given, the only way worship can truly be given is if it is a full heart, full life experience where you're saying to the Lord, more of you and less of me. I'm giving it all. I might have a picture of what I think my life should look like. We might have a picture of what we think Kellie's show should look like. But to take that picture and lay it at the feet of Jesus and say, this might be how I see it, but I give it all to you. I break it all at your feet. And I believe that, you know, in our lives, all of us have had situations and circumstances where maybe our life didn't look like we thought it was going to look like. I think if you've walked with God for 5 minutes, you experience that being with him is an adventure. And it's one that can only be experienced through your life, and it's not just words to you. So life always looks different than you think that it's going to look. And so that's why, and in this book I talk about this, is I said to the Lord so often in seasons of my life, I don't care what it looks like as long as I'm following you. I'm going to say yes as long as I'm following you. It might not make sense. Actually, it probably won't make sense whenever we're following God. It takes faith to say yes. It takes faith to step out in the things that are unknown, and we just trust him. And so there were so many situations in my life where I thought I was going one way, and I heard the still small voice and saying, no, go this way. And if I stuck to my guns and I stuck to my dreams and I stuck to my vision and disregarded the voice of the Good Shepherd, then I would not have made it to his place that he had for me, the sweet, precious place. And it all came down to surrender, and it came down to an offering and saying, God, I don't care what it looks like. As long as I'm following you, my life can look as big as you want it,
Whatever you want.
and it can look as small as you want it. And I believe that now that we're back in the States, we had moved, you know, from Greece and moved back to the States at the Lord's direction. And getting back into that place of surrender, of saying, God, if you want to grow what we're doing, it's about what you want our lives to look like, and we have peace in that place.
You know, I feel like right now, in the times that we're in right now, especially, God is changing things so much. He's moving in such a magnificent, big way that it can often feel like, and maybe like all this change that's around us, sometimes we feel like I have to work hard to hold on to what things were. I'm having to work hard to remain. I'm having to work hard to, you know, to stay in the role that I'm in. And we find ourselves fighting to be the same. And God is saying, you know, let go of the handlebars, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Let go of the structure, or like, as you use the word construct of what was, and let me take you into what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where sometimes you feel like you're sacrificing what was, or you're sacrificing what you know and your comfort, and you don't know what's ahead.
Right.
But this great adventure, like everything that you've gone from here to here to here, doesn't mean hard things won't happen, but I've watched, and in my life too, it's better. It's more fulfilling.
Yeah.
In some ways harder, but higher.
I think that you come to a place where my identity is not a preacher first. My identity is not a, business owner or whatever it is, a teacher, a doctor. Those things are not our identity. Our core identity should be, number one, children of God, and number two, worshipers. And to have a legacy of a worshiper. And it doesn't mean that we all sing, and it means that our hearts are his.
So it's not about a song.
It's not about a song. And when our hearts are his, I hold very loosely the things that I do.
How do you do that? I don't know that I've heard someone phrase it that way, but it makes sense. And how do you?
Well, we have just walked through a season with Abba House, our children's home in Greece, where we are pivoting and moving towards a model of community and family center, community gardens. We're calling it the Mazi Project. So as we were sensing from the Lord the shift, all of these ideas, all of these memories of what God had spoken to my heart about opening a children's home, obviously that was an emotional time because that was a beautiful beginning. But in this journey with the Lord, I had to say, well, God, it's up to you. It's your dream and whatever you want to happen in this nation. It's not about me stepping into that place and opening a children's home. So now that's my identity. My identity is a worshiper. So if he wants it to look different, then I'm going to say, yes, Lord, I'm going to step into that. I'm not going to care what people think. I'm not going to care. My entire existence, I am going to place it on your faithfulness and what you have said in my life, and all of the things on the outside, all of people's opinions, all of those things fall because I have him and I have his voice and I have his direction and I'm his sheep. So I would say that it's easy to put your identity and your validity in what you do. The Lord I had been in situations where I wasn't preaching. And in that season, I realized I was putting all of my value on those opportunities, because when I didn't have it, which I think a lot of people experienced whenever the world closed down, it's you and God, and it's you sitting down with him and being like, am I enough? If I don't have this in front of me, if I can't hold in my hand, oh, look who I am, this is what I do. You're enough because you're a worshiper, because you're a child of God. And so you don't put the weight in things that you could do like you used to.
As we are stepping into these places and that question comes, am I enough? Or maybe it comes in the form of an accusation from the enemy or from your own heart. You're not enough for now. You're not enough for this season. You're not enough for what God's calling you to do. As I watched Jenny, here's what I watched you do. I watched you turn your face from even the demands of keeping a ministry going, keeping your voice out there, keeping your Facebook going and all of that. I watched you turn your face from that to, now I hear what you were doing. Now I'm hearing in your words describe what I saw you do. You turned your face towards the Lord, intimacy. You turned your face towards your husband. You turned your face to what happened in you when you turned your face towards your two little boys.
Well, it wasn't easy. It's easy to say, and it sounds amazing, like, oh, you're hidden in a little village in Greece. But when your whole life you've expected for your life to look like something, and then it looks something completely different, but so beautiful. It was a big process of being feeling forgotten, and felt like, wow, everybody forgot about me. But the Lord had...
that didn't take long.
Not my mom, though. I know that didn't happen. So it was definitely a pruning season. And when I was in the middle of it, I remember feeling so discouraged, like, am I doing enough? Am I pleasing to God? Am I doing what he's asked me to do? And I'm not doing ministry. And I always, had that thought. And just my whole perspective of ministry and calling it ministry changed because, ministry isn't, and I talk about this in my book, it's not standing on a stage holding a microphone. Ministry is servanthood. And I don't believe that Jesus, when he was on this earth and seeing people in ministry, I don't think he saw 501c3s and just thought, oh, they're in ministry. There are the gifts, the 5 apostolic, apostle, prophet, preacher. There is that. But who are the ones that are in the harvest? They're the ones that are in the world. The laborers are sent out in the harvest. And the gifts to the body of Christ, the fivefold ministry, that is for the equipping of the saints. Well, so many times I think that we think, oh, the saints are the preachers. The saints are the ones here.
The saints are there for the preacher.
Yeah. and you see, like, wow, ministry I have placed in a very small box because I realized in that time, and even still, ministry, which is the Greek word diakonos, which literally means servant in Greek, ministry, a marriage is your ministry. Children are your ministry. Changing diapers are your ministry. It's not your organization and the people that have asked you to preach, which I know is something that God has put in
That's
my heart.
a support thing too.
Yeah.
Or an avenue.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I know God has put that in my life, and I believe for open doors, and I continue to do that, and he continues to open doors. But my ministry is everything.
Yeah.
It's my offering. It's my worship. It's saying yes to the Lord. And so you could be in your house and your job, and you think, well, they're in ministry, but I'm not. No, you're in ministry because you are a servant of the Lord and you're a servant to the people around you. So maybe not everybody's called to fivefold ministry, but everybody's called to be a minister, to minister to someone, and first and foremost, a minister to the Lord, Jesus
Well,
Christ.
I was going to say that I feel like and when you were in Greece, there was a shift that didn't come. You didn't leave it in Greece. You've come away with that shift, but I watched you so take your time and minister to the Lord. And there's something in your book that just really spoke to me, Jenny, and I believe it'll speak to you too. It's like, I don't remember what you called it, but it was like these lessons from the vineyard.
Yeah.
Is that what you called it?
Yeah.
That's what it was to me. It's like these lessons that had to come to you sitting on, I'm picturing her from work,
Yes.
looking at the vineyard.
And the vine.
And that's, yes. That, I think when you met him there, that you have come home so high and at a higher place. You've come at a higher place than of restedness.
Yeah.
And there's just a sacred aroma that comes off of you.
I think it was this, it's so easy to get in this striving of life, in this hurry of life. And I believe that there is a time to steward what God has put in your hands and work hard and run with it. But we get in a race with ourselves, and we get in this timeline that God maybe didn't put on our lives. Well, how do we get in that timeline? Because we see somebody else and what they're doing, and we think, well, I'm not there. I got to get there. Not necessarily. Stop, rest, and abide in the vine, and follow his rhythms. In the message, it talks about the unforced rhythms of grace. And that is the race that I want to run. Not one just to be busy, which I think we can all get into. I'm not doing enough, so I need to do this. Well, we need to do what the Lord speaks to our heart to do. That is where we bear fruit. And that's what Jesus said, to abide in the vine. And the only way we're going to bear fruit that pleases the Father is to do it out of abiding. And sometimes that's a really still place a really still spot.